The Great Skeleton War is upon us, but do the Bone Boys stand a chance against this video's sponsor, World of Tanks? Skeletons have calcium, but World of Tanks is free to play, and with a huge variety of historically accurate tanks to choose from, comes sweet explosive action. Before the Skeleton War hits your shore, head to the link in the description to sign up and install using the code TANKMANIA. New players get Excelsior Tier 5, 250k credits, and 7 days premium access, and these 3 rental tanks for 10 battles each. Oh the Big Bone Army has declared a truce, so they too can install World of Tanks. Click the link below so you too can chill out with the mostly peaceful skeleton realm. Again, big thanks to Wargaming for sponsoring this video. Alright, ad time over, let's start. Zyzz is arguably the first to marry internet culture with lifting weights, way back in the early 2000s. You may have heard terms like "you marrin' brah," "you lift brah," "we're all gonna make it brah." This popularity can be attributed to Zyzz's use of the phrases, turning them into memes and common gym lingo. Being one of the biggest social media celebrities at the time, dominating all mainstream areas of the internet, he quickly grew an avid following, which is quite a big deal for someone from my little old country Australia. After his tragic death in 2011 as a young 22-year-old, his legacy continued to the point where we're still seeing ardent worship of his persona today, culminating in a 10-year celebration of his life. However, certain details about him have been revealed, which paints a different picture to the one Zyzz wanted the world to believe. His brother, brah, says he was very, very insecure, and he was in a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, because deep down he was still that skinny kid. Zyzz's story is one that resonates intensely with many on the internet. He said he began as a skinny kid, then started lifting weights just to impress girls. However, this goal would soon change to something a bit more accessible. He ended up championing weightlifting as a way to reach goals and improve oneself for the sake of oneself. It didn't matter that he did steroids or worked as a stripper, people loved him. This is what allowed Zyzz, real name Aziz Shavashian, the superhuman feat of bridging the gap between jocks and nerds. Traditionally, exercise, nutrition, and weightlifting used to be something outsiders would never take up. Bands in the 80s and 90s made a statement about being outsiders by repping stick-thin physiques, in order to distance themselves from athletic meatheads who would bully them in school, or the overly masculine roles promoted by the army in films at the time. Then, throughout the early 2000s and early 2010s, something began changing. Suddenly, skinny people who otherwise couldn't give a shit about the gym or sports started lifting weights and working on their bodies. A cultural shift occurred where ripped muscles and big size wasn't just something for jocks or army marines. Anyone could do it, anyone could make it. And this can easily be attributed to the ripple effect Zyzz had on society. He was huge both offline and online, acting like a charismatic party boy stuck firmly in the shirtless hardstyle scene, focusing on the world of aesthetic bodybuilding. Through being one of the first creating an online presence that utilized incredible branding techniques completely new at the time, by owning doing drugs, partying hard, and utilizing particularly acerbic language through social media, Zyzz flourished and became a controversial figure. After all, he was extremely young, and at that time his fuckboy attitude empowered some and rubbed others the wrong way. Now he's back in the spotlight, with many lifters, meme lords, and average Joes interested in his persona. There are thousands of examples of massive nerds being super into lifting and having huge bodies, a great example of which being Australian YouTuber Major Kill, whose channel focuses primarily on Warhammer 40k. Back in the day, if you were into 40k, then you were considered a huge weirdo for playing with tiny dolls. Now, it's generally more accepted than it used to be, and you'll find plenty of meatheads proud of their collection. Big fellas like Henry Cavill are also a good example. Plus, there's the fact that Zyzz is popular now more than ever because a lot of people are spending more time at home and are looking to work out to fill in the time, which means they're stumbling upon his old videos and learning about him. Thanks to his pioneering of the fitness influencer format, there is a wealth of information available for the safest way to work out with the maximum amount of gains. Especially in a world where everything seems out of control, one can control their body, setting achievable goals, for better or for worse. It's worth noting that whilst lifting weights helps with stress, using it as a crutch to not think about problems is actually not a good idea, and will inevitably lead to bottling up feelings until they get so bad they'll come out anyway. There's also the fact that muscle men are big in online culture, especially with homoerotic undertones. Legends like Billy Harrington, Ricardo, and even the hulking tanks present in shows like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are everywhere. Plus, with memes like GigaChad absolutely dominating the internet, it's no surprise we're seeing Zyzz idolized in a similar way. This need to be absolutely massive reflects a similar time in the 80s Cold War, when huge muscly men were all the rage, kind of like how now we're seeing even bigger and brawnier dudes dominate the screen like The Rock during a time of uncertainty. As it turns out, audiences felt unsafe and insecure, and seeing physically strong people represent America made them feel better. It's a similar thing with Zyzz. Many people attribute him as a kind, benevolent god, to the point where the fascination with his muscles is cult-like. That said, what's interesting is that although he positioned himself as a god and flaunted his body with his classic pose, he still faced the same demons he had when he was a lot younger. After all, he was only 22 when he died, not exactly an age whereupon all of one's insecurities disappear. However, even though he's recorded as doing steroids and worrying about his body image, part of his message appears to have gotten through to so many. Perhaps when he was telling people to stop being so sad, part of him was talking to himself. And that's okay, and also part of the frustration his audience felt when he was represented via certain tabloid news outlets online. Most tabloids saw Zyzz growing as a creator, so they knew he had inherent value, yet they didn't quite understand what they saw. Sure, they got that he had a big following, but they assumed it was only because he was a fun party boy. Underneath, his carefully curated online presence represented an ideal all could aspire to: flowing confidence, a powerful body, and the appearance of being covered in whoever you were attracted to. And he claimed anyone could attain this if they tried hard enough. This is genuinely a wonderful message that resonates with all. Much of Zyzz's legacy is wonderfully pointed towards working on oneself. For anyone, that can mean not worrying about what the other sex thinks. Acerbic memes like female detected, opinion rejected can tend to pile up to the point where it's taken too far, where people can take it as a cue to treat women badly, which is extremely unfortunate given Zyzz liked to raise others up and encourage them to grow. Working on yourself doesn't mean being nasty to others, and seeing that happen, he'd probably say something like, "Fuck that shit, bruh. You can either be a sick or you can be a sad Don't be a sad bruh." One can only speculate what could have been as time marched on. Perhaps he might have opened a gym line, or his messages may have changed as he got older. He could have become a full-time fitness influencer, like his brother, or perhaps he would have leaned into his inspirational messages and advocated for mental health. It's a shame we didn't get to see him grow and mature into his full potential, but one thing is clear. The legacy of Zyzz will always live on, through memes and the fact that lifting weights and bodybuilding has become more accessible to the average person than ever. What meme would you guys like me to give a lesson in next? Let me know in the comments below.
And remember, like and subscribe! Or else.